So, how to make a time converter in Java? Now, you might be thinking, what exactly is this going to do? So, have you ever seen those kind of softwares which take time from you, which ask you for the time zone, and then you go ahead and select another time zone and they just convert it? So, let me just show you an example on a website. Let's say time converter. And we are going to create a GUI based time converter. Now this is just a website, but we will be creating an application in Java, right? So let's wait for the application to open. So here is the application. Now you can just say here, you enter the time, and here you can just see any time zone. Let's say you are in this country, and you can just say, okay, convert it to this country, and it converts. So this is a time converter, and we are going to create something similar in Java as a application with a graphical user interface. Let me talk about the project. So first of all, I hired an expert right here who has been working with the Java for more than 9 years, and we are going to introduce 2-3 new things with you. So first session is all about setting up the environment, where we will download Eclipse IDE and we will install JRE and JDE if you don't have them already, and then we are going to configure everything to get started. Session 2 is very small, you can say, and it is just an introduction to Swing. Now what is Swing? Swing is the best and the most popular toolkit with Java to create graphical user interface application, right? GUI based things. Then we're gonna build the application. So we will create everything in one lecture. So it will be session 3 where we're going to do all the work. It's going to be the longest one, and it's going to take a lot of time, and we will create the application, but that will be a conceptual model, not really applicable to the real life, to be honest. Then I asked him to even introduce you guys with the Java 8 and the Zone API, and then after he introduced you with the Zone API, we are going to use Java 8 classes to make the project from that conceptual prototype to a real life working project, as you saw on that website. So we are going to create a real life project using these all things. Now I'm really interested to see this project, and I wish best to Babis with this project, and I'll take the leave and leave you all with Babis. So let's get started.
In this video we are going to learn how to install Eclipse. I already have everything installed, but I will guide you through the process. Start by installing Java Runtime Environment. So just Google for JRE. When you get to this page, accept the license agreement and click on the appropriate version. In my case it's Windows 64. As soon as it's ready, run the installer. And just continue with the installation. I'm not going to redo it, as I said, but it's very easy. When you finish with JRE, search for JDK. Choose again the appropriate version. It's Windows 64 in my case, but choose what suits you. Install it as well. When you're finished with that, go to eclipse.org. As soon as you are here, click download and get Eclipse Photon and download. It may take a while to download depending on your connection. And wait for it to finish. When you are ready, click the installer. Wait for it to open. Okay, as you can see, Eclipse has a variety of IDEs for many programming languages, as well as extra tools. We are going to select Eclipse IDE for Java developers. It should be the first option. As I said, I already have installed it, but you're just gonna click install and we'll be fine. You might need to restart your computer after installation. But that's all. That's how you can install Eclipse. In this video, we're going to talk about what we're going to create in this project, the tools that you're going to need, and we are going to do a little introduction to Java Swing. So, before we start, I expect that you're already familiar with the Java language and can do stuff like arithmetic operations, use arrays and functions. Also, some knowledge in object-oriented programming will be great, but it's not required. It will just help you understand a couple of things better. Finally, you should have already installed Eclipse. So, what you are going to learn? You are going to learn how to create a time zone converter in Java using the Java Swing toolkit. As I say here, in this project we are going to focus mostly on building the graphical user interface rather than the application logic. So, we are going to talk about events, components, and layouts. The logic of our application is going to be really simple. So, what is Java Swing? Java Swing is probably the most popular graphical user interface toolkit for Java. Java has a lot of other graphical user interface toolkits, but Java Swing, as I said, is the most popular, and we are going to use it because it's lightweight, it's highly customizable, so we can do a lot of things with it, as you are going to see, and it's very easy to begin with. Let's see the most important Swing UI elements. In our project, we are going to use labels, which is containers that have text in them, text fields, which is a single line of text that the user can edit. This is where we are going to insert our time, and combo boxes. Combo boxes is a drop-down menu of choices where we are going to have the time zones. So, what is an event? Consider the press of a button on the keyboard, or the move of the mouse. These are events. So, as soon as an event occurs, we want to do something in our application. In our case, when the user clicks a button, we want the time to be converted. So, event handling is basically a function that runs as soon as an event occurs. Finally, Swing has some basic layouts. In this project, we are only going to use absolute layout, which is the simplest of them, but we maybe see the rest of them in future projects, or you can play with them yourself in Eclipse. Okay, that's all for now. In the next video we will start creating our application in Eclipse. Okay, let's start by creating a new project in Eclipse, right here. Name your project. As soon as you name it, you should see your project folder right here. Okay, let's install Java Swing, the tool that we are going to use to do the GUI. Go to Help, Install New Software. In the Work With field, select Photon and search for Swing. Find Swing Designer and install it. When you finish, restart Eclipse. As soon as it restarts, go to your folder, src, New, Other. Here, look for Window Builder, Swing Designer, and Application Window. This will be the main window of our application. You can see that the Eclipse already generated some code for us. Switch to Design View, right here. Here we can build our application GUI. Okay, let's start by adding an absolute layout to our application. As soon as you add it, let's start creating our GUI. We will also expand our window. Okay, this will be the hour field and the minute field. Let's add some basic elements to help the user. That's from. We are also going to need a combo box where the user will select the time zone. Let's also add title. Right here. As you can see, it needs to be expanded. Okay. Suppose that you want to change the font. You click the element and you go right here, font. We are going to use bold and increase the font size. That's perfect. Finally, we need to add the button so that when the user clicks it, the time zone converts. We are going to name it convert. We can do a lot more stuff like change the background color, for example. Click the background and come here to background. Let's use, as you can see, we have a lot of colors right here. Let's use this one. It may be too dark. That's better. Okay, let's also expand our button and change its font. Font 14. Okay, I don't think we need anything else to work with. Let's begin by adding our regions here. Or first, let's run the program. Okay, as you can see, it's working, but we can't do anything with it. And the button does nothing. Oh, also make this field uneditable. So the user won't be able to add the second time zone. It will be the output. See now? We can click it. Only this one. If you switch back to the source view, we are going to see that Eclipse already generated a lot of code now. Every element we added has some code for it. For example, here is our button, here are the combo boxes, text fields, etc. Okay. Let's start by adding a few time zones or our combo boxes. For that purpose, I have already found a website, this one, that has a lot of that has every time zone in it, and we are going to take a few of them to see how it works. We're first going to create a string of choices. If you are not familiar with strings, strings is basically a series of same information, of same data. In this one, I'm going to add America and get me. I'm going to copy the names now. We will continue. Oops. Okay, our first array is ready. We need to create another one where we are going to add the offset for each region we added, like this. It's going to be an integer array with the offset. Okay. -3 for Buenos Aires, 10 for Sydney, and so on. Okay, if we run our app now, it still doesn't have the time zones. In order to add them, we are going to pass here at the combo boxes our choices array as an argument, like this. So if we try to run the app now, look, we have every time zone we added. Of course our program still does nothing, but we're going to fix that. Our next step is to add functionality to our button. Right now when we click the button, it does absolutely nothing. Let's click our button, left click. Add event handler, action and action performed. Eclipse generates a function that is called when the button is clicked. This one. So what we want to do is, when the button is clicked, let's see. Okay. When the button is clicked, we need to take the numbers that the user will have here, take this region and take this region and convert the time and print it here. Let's start by getting these numbers. Okay. First of all, let's name these fields. Currently it's named text field. We're going to rename it to hours left and minutes left. Same for the right ones. Oops. I'm also going to rename the combo boxes to CB left and CB right. The button as well. Okay. Okay. Let's go back to our code. You can see that the names already changed automatically. That's great. Okay. So, as soon as the user clicks the button, we want to take the hours left text as well as the minutes. Okay. Let's create an integer. Hours equals. So, hours L. The function that we're going to use is get text. It takes the content of that field, but it is a string, so we want it to be an integer. In order to do that, we are going to transform it using integer.parseInt. What this does is, it takes the hours text and then converts it to integer. So in this variable we currently have the hours. We are going to do the same for the minutes, of course. Of course, if we run our program, it does nothing also, because we take the numbers, but we do nothing with them. Okay. Let's also take the user selection on the region. For example, okay, let's see. That will be a string, selection 1. Yes. This will be the combo box, the left one. Get text. No, it's get selected item here. You see that we need to cast this to a string like this. Same for the right one. Okay, now we also have the user choices. What else do we want from our user? We get the time that he entered, and we get his choices here. Now what we need to do is get his choices, which we already did, and look for their offset right here. For example, if he selected Sydney, we need to take the 10 here. If he selected Rome, we need to take the 2. For that purpose, we are going to use index of. It's a function that searches in an array and returns its position. So, position 1 is. However, to use that function, we need to turn an array into list. Don't worry about that now. Just use these functions. So what this does is, suppose that selection 1 is Rome, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. It searches in this array where the Rome is and it returns in position, so 5. So when we go to this array, we know that the 5th element, or 6th to be exact, is the offset of Rome. I think we have a fault right here. Wait a minute. Oh no, it's okay. Let's do the same for the second one. Okay, now we can calculate the time difference. So it will be also an integer and will be offset position 2 minus offset position 1. Don't worry about the math if you don't understand it. It's how the time zone works basically. Now that we find the hour difference, we need to print that to the user. So we are going to set the text for the hours left field. Right. So with a set text function. It will be hour left will be hours plus diff. Remember that fields have strings, not integers, so we need to turn that into string. So integer to string. Same for the minutes, but minutes doesn't say it here, so don't worry about it. Just say it the same exactly. Let's try to work the app now. Suppose it's we'll go from Sydney time or Cairo time to Rome time. It happens to be the same, but okay. Let's try Toronto. You see? Let's try Morbides. What? Okay. Oh, here's a problem. If the second or the first time zone is might be 1 day ahead or 1 day before, for example, if Sydney time is, then Cairo time will be 10. Okay. But if it was 5 here, it will be -3 here. To fix that, we need to understand when the day in one of the time zones changed. To do that, I will explain when I write it. So, if we are going to get a negative number, it means that the second region is 1 day before, and we need to add 24 hours to it. So, hours like this. So, well, the one problem is fixed. This one. We also need to fix the problem where the time in the second time zone is 25, for example. To do that, we are going to modulo with 24 inside here. So we are never going to get a number bigger than 23. Let's try our program now. Suppose it's 4 in Sydney, or 12. And we're going to take America time. Okay, see? This one is 1 day before. If we do the exact opposite, however, let's try 12. See, this one is 1 day ahead in the morning. So our program is starting to work correctly right now. Of course, we have a lot of things to do. Let's see. We can add a label right here. Which will let the user know. I'm going to leave it blank right now. I will set it right here. It will let the user know if it's the same day, the previous, or the next one. So, if the time is negative, it means it's okay. Let's first name the variable there. Will be notification. Notification. Let's set text. Okay. Oh, we have a problem here. You see, the label is declared below our button, so we need to move it right here. So notification set text. Set text 1 day before. Else if our hours are above or equal to 24, then we need to set the text to 1 day ahead. in every other case it's the same day. So same day. Oops. Let's try that now. You see, nothing appears right here, but if we do a time conversion, one day before, okay. If we do from Toronto to Sydney, Sydney is one day ahead. And if we do from Malvides to Cairo, it's the same day. Okay. If you try the app a couple of times, you might find a problem. But if you click the convert button before you set the time here, we are going to get a crash. So if the user was running it, it will completely close the application. To fix that, we are going to use the try and catch Java expression. What this does is it tries to execute this code, but if it fails, it goes into the catch statement. What we want to do when the user doesn't enter a number. Let's pop a notification into him, like this. That's how you show notifications using Java Swing. With show message dialog, we need to add the frame object as the fair argument. And just another argument where we are going to show the message. Input. Let's try that now. See, no crash, just a notification on the user, and he can try again now. It also happens when he enters just a single number, or like minutes or hours. Okay. I want to teach you one more thing in this lesson. If you try to run, you can see that we can write text here, even if it says invalid input. We won't allow user at all to write text, just two numbers. Currently he can write more than them, so we are going to fix that too. To do that, let's switch back to the design view. Here we're going to add the event handler, so it will be when the user is typing something, we are going to check that. So you see that the Eclipse already generated the function for us. Okay, let's create a character. That's the character that we read. To take it, we need to get kicker. Arc0 is the event, basically the click of a key. That's Arc0, and we're taking its arc. So if I will explain in a minute. So if the character red is digit, but with this one it's not. So if it's not a digit, we consume it. We ignore it completely. Let's try that. I'm trying currently to type from my keyboard, but as you can hear, nothing shows up. But in this one it shows. So we need to do the same for the minutes field. I will just copy this function, copy, and go to the minutes field and do the same, but don't forget to change this one. Okay, now it should be working for both of them. Yes. One more thing. We need to limit the user to only enter 2 characters, because if you see now, he can type a number like this and our program still tries to answer that. So apart from digits, we need to allow the user to use the backspace. So using this OR statement, we also allow the user to enter backspaces, else he won't be able to delete his time. Now he should here. So we should ignore completely everything if that's an OR statement. If any of this is true, we get in. So we are going to get the text, its length. If it's more than 2 or 2, we won't allow any more input. Sorry, I'll see. Let's try that. 1 1. I can't write anything more, but if I delete, I can. We still didn't copy that here, so let's try 10 and a quarter from Shanghai to Rome. Okay. As you can see, we can't write anything else here, even letters. So we have a fully functional time zone converter. If you want to play on your own, you can add more time zones here, because you have only a few. It will be easy, don't worry. Just visit the website here, find time zones, add them here and here. Our final step will be to export our project. In order to do that, we are going to go File, Export. Okay, now there are a lot of ways that you can export your project. We are just going to create a jar file, runnable jar file, which won't need an installation. So it's easy to run, you can share it with your friends. Let me select destination here. Okay. Okay. Select the class that we created for the GUI here and Finish. Okay. Let's see if it was successful. I hope that you can see my desktop. It's right here. Java time converter. Let's run it. It works. Let's try to do a few conversions and we are done for today. Okay, one day before works. Let's try same day and one day ahead. Let's try to type letters here. I can't. Let's try to type more than 2 numbers. The only problem that our program currently have is that we can type a number bigger than 24, like 55. So the program will suppose that it will counting 3 days before. But ignore that. No, doesn't matter. We could also insert check for that, but it will be a waste of your time, as it's the same logic as the rest one. Okay, that's all for this project. I hope you have a nice time writing this code with me, and see you. In this final part of the project, we are going to extend our application by focusing mostly in the conversion logic. We are going to change what we have, and we are going to do it professionally using some new Java classes. These classes are: first of all, we have zone ID. Zone ID is a unique time zone ID. That means that it is like a variable, but we store zones only in it. The zones need to have a specific format, like the ones I provided here. Europe Rome, for example. Apart from zone ID, we have zoned datetime. Zoned datetime is the object where we are going to store the date and the time of our time zone. So, we connect our zone ID to a zoned datetime object, and we also set the date and the time. Using this class, we are also going to do the time conversion automatically with a method. Finally, we have the datetime formatter. If we try to print out this one, the zone datetime, we are going to get very hard to read results. So, we are going to use datetime formatter, which will help us print out the results to the user in a much more presentable way. These classes are much more complex than that and have a lot of things you can do with them, but we are not going to need anything else in this project. If you want to know more, you can visit the Oracle website and check their full documentation. Now it's time to get to Eclipse and start coding. In this final part of the project, we are going to extend our application capabilities by displaying the date in a much better format, and we are going to use a few Java classes for the conversions. So we are not going to do the conversions ourselves now. We are going to use some Java classes that will do them automatically. It's a much safer and better way to do it. Let's start by rebuilding our GUI. So, we are not going to use 4 text fields now, we are just going to use 2. These text fields will also show the date to the user, so they need to be big, I guess. So, let's name this TF1, and let's copy and paste another one, and name it TF2. Okay. Let's also remove this label right here. If you remember, we used to show the user if the day had changed in this. Okay. The rest will remain the same for now. Let's go back to our code. As you can see, we have a lot of code that has errors now, because we removed all these text fields and the labels. So, let's rewrite our button code. First, we need to specify which format our time will have, like this. Private, static. This is a string where we are going to show Java how are we going to store time. Like, for example, okay. So I will give you an example now of this format. Consider this. According to our time, this is a valid format. We will maybe need a second over here in amount. So 02. Let's continue. Our next step will be to move this text field from here before the event handler, so we will be able to take the input from the user. So the user will give us a time like this, and we will convert it here. Right now, of course, it's not working. Let's also make the second text field uneditable. Okay. So, what do we want to do when the user clicks a button? We want to take what's in here, what's in this box. If you can recall, we did it with the getText function. So this function returns the user input. Let's print that to make sure it's okay. I will print it in the console right here. So if, for example, okay, so we take the time correctly. Our next step, of course, is to take the user region selection, this one. So we can set the time that the user entered for that area and then convert it to the other one. Let's name the string region 1, and it will be let's comment it out. The name of this is CBL, okay, and that's CBL. So get we need to cast it to a string. Okay, this gives us the user selection for the left region. Let's also take the right one. Let's print them as well to make sure it's okay. Let's input the time here. Okay, as you can see, converting from Malvides to Shanghai. One is zone ID. Here we are going to store the user regions. Let's name it zone 1. This will be equal to zone ID. Oh. Here we need to pass the region 1. So in the previous run of the program it will be Indian Malvides. Let's create another zone ID for the second zone as well. Let's print them to see what they store. Let's remove this one. And let's use zone 1 and zone 2 here instead. Okay. Oops. Okay, what went wrong here? Let's see. Yeah, I searched for the error and the problem is this one. It's Buenos Aires. If we use any other region here, you can see that's working. So the problem is that the Java class that we are using for the zones doesn't have this one included. So let's just remove it from the user options. But don't worry about that, we are going to add them later. For now we need to make the program work first. So let's try again now. Yeah, you can see here converting from Sydney to Sydney or to Cairo, for example. Okay, great. Now that we have created the two zones, we need to do the actual time conversion and print it to the user. To do the conversion, we first need to create two objects that we will store the time for each region. For that purpose, we are going to use the zoneDateTime class, which we will need to import. If you go here, you can see we already imported zoneID, but we haven't imported zoneDateTime. An easy way to do this is, give me a minute. So, the first region will have the time that the user selected, like this, user time dot at and the ID of our zone, which is zone 1. As you can see, we get an error here because we haven't imported the class. If you hover over the error, Eclipse will come up with a few solutions. Obviously, we just need to import the class. As soon as you import it, you can come up here and see that Eclipse did it for you. Okay, the problem here is that we forgot to convert the user time string in a date format. In order to do that, we are going to create another object using the local datetime class, user convert. This will be equal to let's first import this class as well. So user time. Now that we pass it the user time, we need to pass it the time format as well, the one we created right here. So when the function tries to process the user input, it knows where to find what. Use this function for that purpose. And time format, like this. Now, if we pass this, it should be able to store the time for that zone. Let's make sure first, before proceeding, that our object stores the date correctly. Let's try to print this. Let's see what we get from here. Let's run with to enter. Okay, so we get an error, which is not from here. Okay, it looks like we passed the wrong format to our program, so let's try again. Let's see our format as we write it. Okay, let's try this example. Okay, as you can see, it stored the time correctly. Observe that the format that this object stores the time is not very nice to print out to the user. So we're going to have to convert it later to something more user-friendly. Okay. Let's now proceed by converting the time for the region 2. We're gonna have to make another zone date time object. This one will be different though. This will have to be I will explain when I write. Okay, what this does is it creates another zone datetime object, but instead of giving him direct time like this one, where we give it the user input, we say take the other one and convert the time using the zones. So let's see what this one gives us. If we type it correctly, it should do the conversion already, but it will print it out in this format. So we'll also have to make it better later. Let's say this. Let's try this example once again, so we don't lose time. Okay, let's try from Toronto to Rome. Okay, as you can see, it's the same day with a different time from Toronto to Rome. But it's obviously hard to read this, so we're going to use the datetime formatter class to show the user the time in a more beautiful way. Let's go back here and let's create a datetime formatter. We are going to need only one of this for the second field that we are going to show the user the output. Let's name this datetime too. First, we need to specify the format of our time. So just like before, we say that the time will be stored in this format. Now, let's try to print this one and see if it looks better. Okay, so it's format it's datetime 2 not format. So we say we created this datetime object using our pattern, and we pass it the converted time of this one. Let's see the output of our program. I'm going to use the previous example to save time. Okay. As you can see, the time is the same because we converted from Sydney to Sydney. Let's try Toronto, for example. Nice. Here, as you can see, it also updated the date. Toronto is still one day before Sydney in the morning. I think that's correct, but let's try a few more examples to make sure. Oops. Okay. Wait a minute. Okay, I think the problem was that Indian Mavidas isn't in the class that we're using for the time conversion. So we are just going to remove this as well and add more times when finished. Now, as you can see here, I commented out these prints so we can better test our program. Let's start. Let's try this simple. Make sure you get the format right. It's very important. Okay, let's try Rome, for example. Okay, as you can see here, Rome is one day behind in the night. So when it's morning in Sydney, it's night in Rome. As I said earlier, make sure to get the format right because weird things like this can happen. Check this out, for example. We ignore the 0 here and we get an error. Also, make sure you have the AM or the PM in caps because you will get an error if you don't. So, as soon as you have the format right, the program should work. Let's now try to print the string in the user output. Pause the video if you want and try to do this yourself, like we did in the previous video. Okay, let's see how we did the figure. We want to print here. We named it tf2, so we need to do tf2 set text. So what we printed in the console, we need to print it in the tf2. To do that, go this one should work. Let's comment out this as well. And let's try it. Be careful with the format. Okay, looks good. Let's try. Okay, I think it's working perfectly. Let's do a little bit of recap here. Okay, first of all, let's open the program to see. Okay, our first step was to take the user input from here and also take his region selections as well. As soon as we take them, we use the Java zone ID class to create the objects for our two zones. When we take the two zones and create them, we also need to convert the user input in an object using the zone datetime class. As soon as we've done this, we are going to convert the time using another same object. Finally, we have to print the output to the user, but as we saw earlier, this object doesn't store our time in a presentable way, so we need to use datetime formatter to present the user with a more readable time. Apart from that, I think we can now add a few more time zones here, and we don't need this anymore because we are not using it. The conversion is happening within this function, so we don't need the offsets. I will now add a few more time zones here. Let's add some Australian as well. And a few from Europe. I will add all of them, but they are over 600, so this will take days. Let's add this one as well. And let's now try our program again. You see a scroll bar appear here. Let's try from Paris to Rome. Let's say okay, so I probably have got the format wrong. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, of course. As I said earlier, we need a lot of attention here, because we have specified that the hours will be 2 digits. See? Let's try our new time zones. Let's try Paris. Okay. So as you can see, they have the same time zone. But this one is a lot of hours ahead. Let's also try Berlin, which is the same, and this one. Okay, looks good. So let's clean this code a little. And let's see if there's anything else we can do. You can go ahead and add more time zones here if you want. But with this method, you don't need to add the offsets, and it's very easy to add much more time zones than the previous version. Okay, there isn't anything else I would like to add on this project. Let's go ahead and build it. Let's go into File, Export, and runnable jar file. Let's save this on our desktop. Let's save that in our desktop. And let's name this Java Time Converter 2. Also select the launch configuration here and press OK. It's okay if you have warnings, it's maybe unused variables or something like that. Okay, let's try to run the program through our desktop. I will convert from Rome to this one. Let's say. Let's check the formatters. Yeah, I forgot the. Okay. Probably one more thing this app should include is this one. Let's help the user by adding the format that we expect from him. So, text will be. And let's rebuild our project. Let's run it again. That's much better now. It will save the user from all these warnings. Let's try to get a different day. Okay. That's all for this project. I hope you had fun and see you in a future project.